My name's Larry Cooper, and I'm on the City Council. I'm one of the newest members. I'm absolutely a freshman, a novice, and my knowledge of city governments is actually pretty elementary. But I have done some homework, so maybe I can be informative. And I want to thank Kimberly Alstyne for putting this together, and I want to thank all of y'all for being here. Now, I did have some resources. This is an easy book to read. This is called it's put out by the Texas Municipal League, the 2013 Handbook for Mayors and Council Members, and it's been really handy for me. And also, I've looked at chapters 22 and 25 of the Texas Local Government Code, and that's helpful. Though I haven't studied each of the whole chapters, but I've read several sections that helped me out. And one of the sections, chapter 22, is about the aldermanic form of government in Type A general law municipalities. That applies to us. That's the kind of city government we have. And the other Chapter 25 deals with the city manager form of government in general law municipalities, and that applies to us also. So, local governments in Texas, there are over 1,200 cities and towns in Texas, and about 820 of those are general law cities, like Van Alstyne. And the two general big types are general law cities, like we are, and then there are home rule cities. Once you get to be larger, then you can become a home rule city. The law treats them differently. Generally speaking, general law cities, the state law sets a ceiling. And so anything up to that ceiling, you can, actually it tells you what you can't do. Anything else, I mean, let's see, let me make sure I've got this right. It tells you, no, I've got it backwards, okay. For general law cities, the state statutes tell you what you can do, and you can't do anything else. And so we're rather limited. And that's why I say that it sets a ceiling. Now, for home rule cities, the opposite is true. Home rule cities are typically larger cities. You have to have at least 5,001 in a population. And the law looks at them differently. It looks at home rule cities. The philosophy is that they ought to be able to govern themselves pretty much. And so, unless the law proscribes or forbids you to do something, then usually a home rule city can write a charter and do pretty much what they want. And I'll be discussing that more later. But we are right now, because of the sizable population, we have for years been a Class A or a Type A general law city. And as an example maybe of the kind of things that we can't do, but a home rule city can, our city cannot have recall elections. We can't recall the mayor or city councilman by election. If you want to get rid of a city councilor or a mayor, you have to take them to a district court. And I imagine it would be a lot like a lawsuit. You would have to prove a case against them and get a ruling by a judge that they ought to be fired. But not so in a general law city where they provide in the charter for a recalled election. Now, there are three kinds of general law cities. There's Type C. Those are generally the smallest of the cities. They have a mayor and two commissioners. And they get treated a little differently, I understand, if their population is below 500 versus whether it's above 500. Then there are Type B cities, and they have populations between 2,001 and 10,000. They have a mayor and 4 aldermen. And a Type B can become a Type A if they want to, once they reach a population of 600 or more. Now, as I said, Type B have a mayor and 4 aldermen. We have, in this Type A city, by statute, we have a mayor and 5 councilmen. Now, I always thought the term alderman and councilman, that they were pretty much synonymous. They don't really draw a distinction here, except to say that Type B have 4 aldermen, Type A have 5 council members. Now, as I said, we are a Type A general law city. We can become a home rule city once we reach a population of 5,001 or more. We can if we want to. Don't have to. Van Alstyne's population from the 2010 census was 3,046. Now, I'm sure it's larger now, but I don't think we're near that 5,000 figure. We have a mayor-council government, as do almost all Type A general law cities. But there are two kinds of mayors. There's a strong mayor and there's a weak mayor. Now, a strong mayor provides over the council, as does a weak mayor. But a strong mayor also runs the day-to-day operations of the city. He or she is a political head who truly runs the city. Would be a huge job in any fair-sized city. Now, weak mayor, that's not meant to be a derogatory term. The mayor is still the highest-ranking elected official. The mayor is the political or the governmental head of the city. Either a strong or a weak mayor still presides over the city council. The mayor is free to offer their advice to the city council. The mayor rules on questions of procedure at meetings, and her rulings are binding unless they're challenged by a majority of the council, a simple majority. The mayor can make formal objections to ordinances or resolutions that are passed by the council. And if the mayor does that in a timely fashion, then the council has to reconsider the ordinance or the resolution that they've passed. The mayor votes with the council when there's a tie. Now, of course, we have 5 councilmen, so when would there be a tie? There could be a tie if, for instance, one of the councilmen has to abstain on a particular vote. And if there's a tie, then the mayor can break the tie. If a councilman happens to be absent, then there can be a tie and the mayor can vote. Now, in Van Alstyne, the mayor prepares or assembles the agenda for council meetings. Now, that's not so in all these Type A municipalities. It's done that way here. I'm not sure how long it's been done that way. I don't know of any plan to change that, but the mayor puts the agenda together. Now, the decision by the citizens at some point to hire a city manager, that creates a weak mayor form of government, because the city manager takes over not the government. The city manager doesn't govern, but he does take over the management of the day-to-day operations of the city. Public Works, police, fire, EMS, clerks, and all work within a budget under the supervision of the city manager. When you have a city manager, then neither the mayor nor the city council have any administrative or managerial duties with the city. The mayor and council just become the legislative branch of the government. Roles and responsibilities of officers in general law cities. The mayor, I've discussed quite a bit already, but I should add that because the mayor can vote at times, then the mayor is also a part of the council. He's considered a part of the council. City council members, unless the city is divided into wards, then there are always 5 city council members by state law in a Type A general law city. If the city is divided into wards, then 2 council members are elected from each ward, which means that, for instance, if the city was divided into 4 wards, then we would end up with 8 council members versus 5. So you can make the council grow if you decide that the city ought to be divided into wards. That's something that could be done now. I mean, after a petition, if the citizens decide that's what they want. Once again, the council they are the legislators. They pass ordinances and resolutions, and they approve city budget. They approve city budgets year by year. No council member has any power individually. A A council member is just one of 5 votes. Usually takes a simple majority to pass legislation, an ordinance or a resolution. Sometimes it takes a supermajority, which in our case right now would be 4 of 5 votes. Times it might require a supermajority if we decided, if the council was going to try to dismiss the city manager, it would take a supermajority to do that, 4 or 5 votes. Passing a new tax certainly would require a supermajority, and I think probably passing an increased tax rate requires a supermajority. Now, I'm not positive about that. I could be wrong, but I know that in the 2 tax increases that I've seen since I've been on the council, each time we did have, each time it was a 4 to 1 vote. So we had a supermajority. I don't know if it was required or not. The city manager is a person who's hired as an administrative mechanism for the city. And if I can make an analogy, the citizens are stockholders in a corporation. The stockholders elect a board of directors, and with the chairman of the board, kind of the equivalent of a mayor and a city council, I think. And then that board can hire a chief executive officer, a CEO, to run the day-to-day operations of the corporation. And that's pretty much what a city manager does. The board of directors is going to hire the best qualified person they can with the money that they're offering. They're going to get the best they can get. The board of directors, or the council in our case, the city council, can also fire a city manager at will. The city manager then is accountable directly to the city council. Now, as I mentioned earlier, having a city manager doesn't change the city government's framework, but he is an administrative mechanism that is added to the city government. He only acts under the authority given him by the council, by the ordinances that they pass. He supervises the department heads, public works, police, fire, EMS, the city clerks. He supervises those people, helps them coordinate their activities, works closely with them, listens to their interests, helps them to prioritize their work, their different jobs, keeps them on budget, and he can fire or discipline or hire city employees. He can't add to the force without, to the numbers of city employees without going to the council first. But if someone isn't performing well, he can fire them and hire somebody new to replace them. He's the budget officer. He proposes an annual budget. He has a duty to work within the budget that's already been approved by the council. But annually, he and his department heads work together and put together a prospective budget that they have to present to the mayor and the council. And then the mayor and the council, we spend a lot of time actually. He advises them as to how they might change the budget, different items they could put in or take out, and along with the costs, the changes in the cost with those things either added or subtracted. The budget process is kind of a lengthy one. There are usually 2 workshops and then 2 public meetings after the council has decided what they want to present to the public. The public gets to have 2 meetings to discuss the budget, and then only after the second meeting can the council pass the budget. It becomes an ordinance. The city manager is the city's chief executive officer. He works through his department heads to enforce the ordinances, the rules, and the regulations that are put in place by state law and by the council. He's an important advisor to the mayor and the council, provides input as to citizens' needs, employees' needs, current and future situations and the way situations evolve, current and foreseeable operational situations, financial situations and operational situations. And he proposes solutions to problems. Now, everyone involved in government is accountable to a pretty good extent, pretty decent extent. And accountability concerns for mayors and council members and other officers are, of course, conflicts of interest. And I don't think I'd have to describe many of those. We can all imagine conflicts of interest, abuses of office, officers trying to get city employees to mow their yards, or misuse of public opinion. If I try to borrow a city-owned lawnmower to go mow my yard, that's an abuse of public equipment. Nepotism, I think we all know what that means. One of the big concerns for councilmen, especially, is the Texas Open Meetings Act, because we, as councilmen, are not supposed to deliberate or try to make arrangements for votes this way or that way on anything that's going to come before the council in the way of an ordinance or a resolution. We can't get together on our own and have our own little meeting before the big meeting, before the public meeting. It's not allowed by law. It's actually a criminal violation to do that. So we have to be careful. It's not a plurality. It's a, what's the word I'm looking for? 3 of the council members.
Majority.
Quorum.
Yeah.
Quorum is the word I'm looking for. A quorum cannot get together and discuss or debate any issue that's going to come before the council later. And the Texas Municipal League also says that even 2 council members, though they're not a quorum by themselves, they shouldn't get together and deliberate on anything that's going to come before the council, because if one of them happens to make a phone call to a third, then you have a quorum. And so that's an illegal meeting. So we have to be careful, and we try very hard not to get together, even in pairs, to talk about issues that are going to come before the council. It would be a serious mistake. Texas Public Information Act is also something that everyone's concerned with, because there's so much information that is public, and you're entitled to get any of it that you want. And of course, you can attend council meetings, and all of that's public information. After the fact, you can go to City Hall and get whatever came from the council meeting. You can get that. You can also, on our website, you can watch city council meetings. If you weren't able to get here personally, you can watch them at home. Now, things that aren't public information, well, things that are, the salaries that are paid to city employees, salaries, benefits, all that's public information. Something that's not public information is an individual's personnel file. There would have to be some lawsuit or something going on in a court, and the judge would have to order that you get a person's personnel file. It would likely be your lawyer who would get it after the judge looked at it to make sure that anything was relevant in there. Now I want to talk for a few minutes about changes that you can make in government. And a good example is this coming November 4th. There's going to be a question on our ballot as to whether or not we want to abandon the city manager form of government that we currently have. And that election was brought about by a citizen's petition. The citizen got enough signatures on there, and so it's being brought to a vote. And now I'm not going to say which way I think anybody ought to vote. You know, that's up to individual voters to decide whether they like the city manager form or whether they want to abandon it. Wards, if that's something that could be decided in a near future election if you want. Now, I don't know if anyone's concerned about it. As I said, if the city's divided into wards, then you'd have 2 councilors per ward. And I don't know if there are citizens here who feel that their neighborhood, the places around them, their neighborhood, is being ignored or being shorted, then they might decide that we need to divide the city into wards so that people who live in their wards, 2 of them, can represent them at city council meetings. So that's the kind of thing citizens can do. So they have some power. And then someday, in an upcoming election, we could be deciding whether or not we want to become a home rule city. Once we get that magic number 5,001. It would require a petition and an election. And home rule cities get a whole different set of rules, as I said, on a different philosophy by the state. You'd have to develop a charter, and then there would have to be a vote on the charter to make sure that it was acceptable to the public. Now there are too many options in a charter. There are more than we can even discuss here. But home rule cities have inherent powers. And inherent powers are powers possessed without having been granted by the state constitution or legislature. Unless they are proscribed or forbidden somehow by the U.S. Constitution or the state constitution or state law, then they're available to a home rule city. They can make use of them. In other words, if the power isn't denied, then it's inherent. You can set up your own administrative organization, put your city government together the way you want it. Annexation is an important power that a home rule city has. A home rule city can annex adjoining areas whether the people living in that area like it or not. It's a considerable power. Initiative. Citizens can propose and initiate ordinances if they want to, and they can circumvent a city council if the city council doesn't want to act or refuses to act. Citizens can bypass the city council. Referendum. Local voters can repeal unpopular ordinances. If the city council won't act, then the citizens can do it. Recall. Citizens can fire mayors and councilors before their term is over, just by a vote. Charter amendments, they can change their charter up if they want to. You can amend the charter that you put together to become a home rule city. You can have a mayor and council kind of government. You can have commissioners. You can have all three, a mayor, councilor, and commissioners. Commissioners over the police, fire. You've all heard of police commissioners, fire commissioners, public works commissioners. You can have all of those if you want. You just have to put it in the charter. You can have more officers. You can have a treasurer. You can have an auditor. The city manager issue can be revisited. You could decide that you want a full-time mayor and that you want to pay the mayor a salary. Like I said, unless constitutional or state laws somehow forbid it, then you can put it in your charter, largely. I wanted to keep this brief and informative. Didn't want to say anything controversial because this was never advertised as any kind of debate. I hope that I've done that. I tried to keep it brief also. And I wanted to keep my personal political feelings out of it, and I hope that I've done that. And if there are any questions, then I'd be glad at this time to try to answer those. Any at all? I think I made it in around 20 minutes.
This information is going to be available on paper or anything like that you just shared? Like a transcript?
Well, I have my outline here, and I'd be glad to turn that over. It can be copied by the city. Might not be a bad idea. As I said, I tried to stay away from items that are going to come up for a vote necessarily, and just talk about what is in city government.
I think it would be helpful to a lot of the residents in Hamilton to get together a lot, knowing what options there are for our city government.
Well,
not everyone understands.
Sure. And that was the reason for this meeting, and that was Ms. Alstyne's rationale for putting it all together. And I'd be glad to provide this. This may be kind of sketchy.
There's a lot of people that have kids that can't come to meetings and stuff like that. They get together for ladies' coffees and lunches.
And something that I showed earlier that was really helpful for me, because one of the first things I said is that I'm a real novice in city government. And this book is put out by the Texas Municipal League, and it's called 2013 Handbook for Mayors and Council Members. And I don't know when they're going to put a 2014 version out, but this has been really good for me to have. And it's It's chock full of good information on city governments of different types. So
How would you get one?
you can order it. You can go to their site and order it, and I think it's $20. But let's see. The Texas Municipal League, you can go to their website and buy them. They have several books that they sell. This may be one of the more expensive ones, this $20 book. But it's a really good one. Any other questions? Well, I'll be here for a while if anybody has any. And I want to thank you once again. Thank all of you for coming. And if anybody, two things I brought, this, and you're welcome to look at it. You're welcome to look at copies of this municipal, well, let's see, chapters 22 and 25 of the local government code. I'll leave those out, and you can sure look through this. And I also brought copies of the schedule for early voting if anyone needs to know when and where.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
So if you have a weak mayor government, your city goes over 5,000. Can you stay in the weak mayor government, or do you need to change to some other form?
No, you can stay in that.
Okay.
You can put together the government practically any way you want to.
I understand.
Yeah, the difference between a weak mayor and a strong mayor is a city manager, basically.
Right.
So you sure can.
Well, if Alstyne doesn't have a city manager, we need to become a strong mayor?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. If we and that's the vote coming up, whether you want to abandon the city manager form. And if the vote is to go ahead and abandon the city manager form, then bang, we have a strong mayor.
And the mayor requirements are just by popular vote.
Yes. Yeah, mayor's elected by popular vote.
There's no particular criteria on education or anything.
No, only 18 years of old, resident of Texas for, I think, the preceding year. No, let's see. Yeah, I think that's right. And a mayor of the city, or a citizen of the city for a year.
But no
That's it?
education or...
No, there's no educational requirement. There's a resident, yeah, just the residential requirements that they have. And 18 years of age.
So Larry,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. So when people go in to vote, if they want to keep this form of government, they need to vote no, correct?
That's
Or is it
correct.
to abandon the city government?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's right.
Yeah, you vote against changing.
Yeah, you vote, if you want to keep the city manager, you vote against abandoning the city manager. If you
If
want,
the city manager is chosen, isn't that where he, applies for the job and has to go through the interview process and people select that person, man or woman, based on, them meeting certain criteria for that position, just like any other professional position?
yes, once the city decides that they want to go to a city manager form, then you're right. We get applications, and the city council hires a city manager after all the interviews. They offer a particular salary and a particular set of benefits, and they interview these applicants.
And they're an employee, so they're responsible to act as such and meet certain criteria and be evaluated in 90 days, 1 year. They have certain job descriptions and job requirements.
And they're evaluated every year, and the same, or the city council can hire them, and the city council can fire
And
them.
terminate.
You said something earlier about a city, with our rule of government,
Mhm.
a city councilman cannot be fired by the city council. The citizens have to do that, or?
No, you'd have to, not by a recall. We can't have recall
Oh.
elections here. A home rule city can have a recall election if it's in their charter. But we can't have a recall election. What we would have to do is take the mayor or the councilman to a district court and prove up a case against them.
There are most rough people in the first one.
And we're presently a general law class A.
Yes, type A, general law.
I don't know if you brought this up, Larry, or not, but did you say that when you were talking about a strong mayor form of government, like when your council passes ordinances or anything that they pass, the mayor has the full right to veto it and it doesn't go into effect? That's one of the functions of a strong mayor, is being able to control what the council does. So the council has no power to do anything other than, I think they can do a super majority and maybe overrule her, a veto, the mayor's veto, but other than that.
That's interesting. That's not something I picked out of there, but that doesn't mean it's not so.
Yeah.
That almost sounds something like Richard Daley up in Chicago years gone. Well, it's kind of what you're describing,
Yeah.
is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Strong mayor has lots of authority over the whole city.
And they decide the budget. They can have an administrator if they choose to. You can take a city, they can change it around to where your city manager is now a city administrator. Some towns have that. I think Howe does, and I think Anna did at one time. And then when they became, then they could switch that over to a city manager if they change the form of government. But it's not a requirement that they have an administrator. It's up to the mayor to choose whether or not she wants to keep the present staff, and the mayor can remove any staff they want to with no repercussions whatsoever, but they can choose to keep everyone, as some cities have done.
A strong mayor would directly supervise the different departments, the fire, police, EMS, administration. The mayor would directly supervise them. As it is, the city manager supervises them.
What is
Strong.
surrounding our little community of little town? Do we know what everything is about?
I was just thinking that question.
Yeah. Like Whitewright and...
Like I said, I think Hal has a strong, I'm really not sure whether they have a strong mayor. Huh?
Hal's a strong mayor for them.
Is it a strong mayor?
Yeah.
Okay.
But they're a lot smaller than we are.
Right.
Yeah, I'd like to see what some of the more progressive and well-ran cities are doing. I believe the majority of the cities that I'm familiar with have, a city manager government, which, brings that level of education and expertise and responsibility and accountability to the citizens.
The cities that you're talking about, the larger cities,
Like
do they have...
Melissa, Salina, I believe the majority of those cities are city management.
And I don't know how many of them are home rule, how many have a charter that they operate under. We just operate under state laws for Class A, or for Type A, general law cities.
Well, most of those cities are less than 5,000 also. So they would have to be general law.
Okay, yeah.
I think that a majority of the cities that are under the population of 5,000 and our general law have a strong mayor. I think the majority have a strong mayor form of government. Now, we went away from that, I think 19 years ago is when it was passed for us to no longer be a strong. I'm not 100% sure. That's just what I think it was.
I thought 2003.
Was it 2003?
Yes.
Okay. Unless I'm thinking 11 years. But, that's weird, because I had understood that the present mayor was mayor when we went away from it. But that would have been quite a long time ago, so I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure.
As a strong mayor of government, who holds the mayor accountable?
The citizens.
Is that a lot of offices?
Every 2 years, they could re-elect another mayor.
So you have to wait 2 years?
Yeah, all
You
the
have to wait
terms.
2 years.
Councilman and mayor, all two-year terms.
So if you have a royal mayor, you can't do anything for 2 years?
Unless they're really super, super bad, then you can take them to court.
And prove it.
Spend a lot of money, spend a lot of money.
And the city has to pay the mayor's vendor.
The council,
For a week mayor government?
week mayor, yeah, the city council holds, the city manager is directly accountable to the city council, and he can be fired at will, anytime.
And it can be by, 3 out of 5, unless, in our case right here, we signed a contract with the city manager that it would require a supermajority to remove it. So that was something that, but you could do that any way you wanted to.
Well, I think, as an officer, I think as a sworn officer, I think it requires a supermajority anyway.
I didn't think it does unless you put it in the job description. Maybe so.
Well, I think-
We'd have to look that one up.
Is there any way we can find out what some of the cities, I really would like to know what some of the
Well,
cities around.
The only way I know is to go online and look at each city you're curious about. The
Alstyne and
city
Worcester
site.
both over 5,000 and have gone to the home rule charter. By
Okay.
just looking while y'all were talking.
And as soon as we get to
And the home rule
5,000,
charter
we will
is
want to be
what
home
we're
rule.
supposed to-
Well, the biggest
You have to
advantage
be
is,
5,000.
that you can now annex land. You cannot annex somebody into the city unless they request you to do so, if you're a general law city. If you become a home rule city, like Anna, they started annexing adjoining properties all over the place because they can now annex into their town.
And you have no choice whether you're in or not.
I don't think I think it's quasi, you have some things that you can argue about as to whether or not they can do it, but because they have to provide you with sewer, water, all those things. If they can't provide you that within so many years, then they're required to release you, and no longer are you a part of the city.
What I read said.
They have some things they have to do since they're taking over your area.
A home rule city can unilaterally annex a
Right.
person's property.
And we're headed there?
Well, yeah, once we reach 5,001, we can do that if we want. It's not mandatory. We can stay with what we've got if we want to. But at some point, if the citizens want to become a home rule city, it would require a petition and a vote. And who knows what would happen. Good question. I think it's a more advanced form of government. Well, here I am, with personal opinions. But yeah, typically it's a more advanced form of government for larger cities. And the state's philosophy, I think, is kind of important. The state's philosophy for general law cities is that we need the state's rules in order to operate. The philosophy for a home rule city is they
Home rule is where you go after you get to 5,001, correct? Okay.
Where you
And then
can.
You can. You don't have to. No, you can. And at that point, if the city so chooses and they have the resources to annex and provide city services, they can annex city. Because, this stuff, I'm like 300 feet, my ranch is 300 feet from the city.
Yeah.
The city limit sign.
Yeah.
Where ours is. So, that can really make a working ranch cost a lot more and what you're already paying for all that land and the taxation and all that land. So, I know it would help, because I am interested in the ETJ situation, but I also,
Right.
there's a lot of people that live out where I do, in that ETJ, and they just don't have a clue how it affects them at all.
Well, I think the city, before they propose to annex anyone, I think they have to say that we're going to provide you these services. And if, for instance, we had a home rule city, it was going to annex you whether you want to or not, but maybe they weren't going to provide the services that they ought to, I think that the remedy would be a lawsuit.
And you would not have to become a part of the city. If they don't provide stuff within so
Because
many
it's a
years.
challenge. You want the vote, you want to have, positive impact on your city, but at the same time, you don't want to be part of an annex.
Yeah.
You can't get any of the benefits.
Usually, most cities won't annex outside their boundaries that much unless there's a reason to. If there's something that's, if somebody's building like the power plant out there that's being built, they're going to want to annex towards that direction. Because that, if they get that power plant inside the city limits, then they get taxes off of it. So they have to have adjoining
We
property
got
to
to
get
get
to
our
it.
water system fixed in this town first.
Yeah,
We got to get our plumbing working good.
Yeah, yeah.
Anybody else? I don't know what else I can offer.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Larry.
You're welcome. Glad y'all could make it.